All right, you gotta cozy up to the microphone here. All right, welcome to the podcast, Ariete Chef and newly appointed sous chef of Laurel, Bryan Shorr. Welcome on the podcast. We don't have any sound effects on here. No, we don't do that. So I wanted to talk about our run challenge.
Okay.
Okay. So for this month, we had, I guess it was kind of like a deal or I don't know what you would call it. It was a challenge, right? Just to vaguely put it, it was like a challenge of running 50 miles for the month. And that was completely your idea. You got to talk into the microphone, for fuck's sake, Bryan. Jesus Christ.
That was my idea.
Okay, why?
Running has been a thing that kind of had a really positive impact on my life. Mm-hmm. I never in my life expected to be a runner, but I guess I kind of am now. And I just think in what we do in the industry that we're in, the balance between work and after partying and stuff like that is not really cohesive sometimes for a healthy lifestyle.
Sure.
And I'm around everybody here all day, every day, and the bond I have with everybody, I think that it would only be beneficial to them. So I kind of mentioned it to Manny and Chef Chris over at the Gibson, and they were super into it. And then I reached out to you, and I knew if you said yes, that everybody would take it a little more seriously, and that's really what happened.
So what do you think was like, because obviously like the cooks in general, we could be quite the pirates and a good healthy amount of degenerates in our clan of cooks. You know, it's just like there's people that like just don't give a fuck and they'll down like a whole 12 pack of PBR and 6 shots Jameson. I used to be one of those. And then there's people that, you know, kind of like yourself that are a little more mindful. What do you think was the overall reaction when you told everyone that this was a plan for August?
It was overwhelmingly embraced, surprisingly, and front of the house jumped on board,
but only 2 completed, yeah.
No, Emo did it, and
he's not front of the house.
No, but Willie did it in the front. You, me, Manny, Kevin, so quite a bit did it. But I think that just getting out there and doing it is I think it creates camaraderie.
Sure.
I think it creates more. The team here is already amazing, but I think it only adds to that.
Sure.
And I just think there's no negative aspect, zero.
Right.
And something like that, it's something that like sometimes when people are doing something alone, they wouldn't do it.
Right.
But again, when you jumped in and then Chef Manny had Chef Paulo.
There he is. Chef Manny, the 70-mile king right there.
No. 79.5.
Yeah.
79.5.
For another half right now just to get to 80.
Okay, whatever. Do whatever makes you happy, okay? But it's, I mean, you have literally an hour and 35 minutes. Okay, and we have to finish inventory, just saying.
Oh, I did.
Okay, got it.
I did the freezer. But I lost my thought there. But I just think that it kind of cascaded into something amazing.
I think, obviously, I'm a big proponent for team culture. I'm a big proponent for camaraderie, fighting for each other, all those kinds of things that, I mean, I think to make a great kitchen work, you have to have. I think what you did in August was incredible. And I'll tell you this much. I've been hard training for, I don't know, 4.5 years, whatever it is. And, you know, I tell people they can come, they can not come. If they want to do it, they could do it. It's hard to hold a lot of people to that kind of accountability. It's one thing within the walls of a kitchen. I think it's different when you start talking about personal life, especially like the aspect that of what society views a kitchen to be like, right? It's very easy to fall into the norms of like what kitchens are supposed to be like, right? Which is a bunch of pirates, everyone drinks a lot, there's a bunch of cocaine, which never happens. There's a bunch of people just like a bunch of fuck-alls, and like that's not really the culture that we have.
No.
And I think that double downing on the wellness portion of that was huge. I mean, people like Manny, which Manny, whatever, Mr. 80 Mile in August, hasn't worked out in fucking months, maybe years. And the truth is that this may catapult him into a new version of his life, which is health and wellness, which is important.
Amazing.
Emo's the same thing. Kevin was already an avid worker-outer, like he worked out all the time and whatever. But, you know, the fact that sous chef Danny Rosales even ran 10 miles is a shock to me. You know, like, I don't know the last time he ever ran 10 miles. But all that stuff is, it's a domino effect. And as you continue, like, your career as a leader now, that's really important stuff to carry with you, because it's very easy to just hold people accountable, like in the kitchen side, but holding them accountable overall, which I think is like very much who we are, is a very different dynamic. So I think it was incredible. I think, you know, I actually did a 9.5 mile run on Sunday to finish.
I heard.
And I still feel like an old man 3 days later, but something that Manny and I talked about a lot, because we talked about this run challenge pretty much every day, because he wanted to tell me how many miles he ran every day, was that I couldn't really break 4 miles. So running 9.5 for me, I haven't done that in years. And, you know, it proves that the mind can push you further than what you really think you can go. And I think if you continue doing stuff like that and motivating people the right way for all kinds of things, not just to do great food, not just to work hard, but also like to keep them, like, hold themselves accountable. It's a whole different type of leadership that I don't think the kitchen really has enough of. So I think the whole point of this was, one, to say thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure, Chef. Thank you.
And two, are we going to run it back?
Yeah, I'm always down.
I know, but you also ran 100 miles like 2 months ago. So it's like a little unfair with you. I think it's really to see if everyone else is going to run it back.
Man, he's going to do it. I know Chef Chris is.
Well, Chris, we could talk about Chris here, right? Because he's a Pongo Podcast Hall of Famer. He's been on here twice.
Yes.
Chris, we're talking all that shit that he did and he reached 23 miles.
I'm pretty sure he talked some shit on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, I ran 26 miles in a day. It sounded kind of like that.
You know what though? He's a dear friend of mine. I love him, and I asked him. I was like, you know, I see him going out drinking. I was like, don't say you don't have time for this, like you do. And he was very honest, and I can only respect his response. And I don't want to put too much, but he said he was working really hard. He's like, I've been out of the kitchen for 8 years, and I'm not used to coping with the stress the way that I should.
Sure.
And so that's something I'm working on. And, you know, if somebody says that to you, then you can only say fair enough.
Well,
and,
I think the biggest thing is also, like, you have to make time for yourself. And I think that's the most important thing that we miss, is like, as chefs or, you know, industry professionals, whatever you may do, front of the house, back of the house, whatever it may be, like, you have to make time for yourself, and you have to make time for the things that essentially are going to make you feel better, you know. And I think, like, in the search for all that, in the journey for all that, I think it's like having people to hold you accountable is very important, but not just hold you accountable to talk shit to you, but just to really say, you can do this, you've done this before, it's not outside of your reach. And Chris knows it's not outside of his reach. No, he's been running his entire life. You know, holding
people accountable isn't necessarily a negative confrontational thing. It's just calling out what needs to be called out sometimes, and we all need that. And I know he'd do that for me. I sure as hell know you would. Yeah. And I don't think sometimes people think that accountability is a negative thing, but I don't think it needs to be like that.
Well, it says a lot, like Chris, and we talked about this a lot, about the run challenge. It's like, you know, when I was training for a marathon, that's all I was doing.
You ran a marathon?
No, him.
Oh.
When he ran a marathon, that's all he was doing. He was training to run a marathon. It's very different when you add the very large aspect of just work life, you know, and like being able to have work life, home life, and also social life balance is very difficult. To be able to hold yourself accountable through all three is very, very, very difficult. And I think, you know, we're just going to keep using him as an example because he is who he is, and he's fine with us talking about it. I think this was a big lesson for him, and it would be a big lesson for a lot of people, because the other people like the Danny Rosales of the world that didn't quite finish, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to enter the next phase of his career. He'll remember that other people with jobs that were as important, bigger titles, did it. You know what I mean? Of
course, that's why I keep mentioning that you embracing it was so big, because no one has more on their plate than you here.
Well, I know that if I did it, other people were going to push for it too. And, that's part of leadership. It's the same thing for you. It's the same thing for Manny. Like, Manny pushing for it probably pushed Emo to do it.
100%.
Emo, for the people who don't know, is one of our dishwashers and also probably one of the cooler guys on the planet. We would all agree.
He's a friend, yeah.
And, he isn't a lot like me. I'm not a runner at all. And he pushed himself across that finish line and he did it. And I think it's just saying that it's possible. No matter whatever you have in a day, it's literally 1.6 miles a day, which is legitimately 25 minutes if you have a slow pace.
And you're feeling better always.
Right.
There's times I don't want to run all the time, and there's never once where I've regretted it afterwards. I'm always happy that I got out there and did it.
Well, my knees regretted it for sure after Sunday, but, I got through it, and I think, we have to keep pushing that kind of thing. And I think the more we push that stuff as a leader now, and as someone that people are going to look up to, because you're going to have a whole new staff that's going to work for you that don't know where you came from. Pushing those kind of things is very important, and I commend you for pushing this whole staff to do it.
I appreciate it, Chef. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers, Chef.
I'm going to run tomorrow. That's all I'm saying.
I got you.
All right. There he is. Danny, how many miles did you run last month?
10, respectively.
I don't know. You got to go find a room. I don't know. Yeah. I don't
You want
know.
one?
No, I don't want one. I don't want one.
All right.